What's going on, everybody? It's Frito back again for your Overwatch, here to describe for you one of the most important terms to understanding the game and improving your own gameplay: value. You want to be getting all of it, as much value as you can, and that's value in terms of the output of your abilities, but also in the investment of your time. And those are the two main aspects that'll help you edge out versus another team. If your team is getting more value out of all the things that you do than the other team is, that essentially is your win condition. So how do you go about doing that? First, I'll describe time. This is something that I think is commonly misunderstood among Overwatch players right now. Though sometimes you can look down at your stats and see that you have gold damage or good eliminations and think you're doing well for your team, but in actuality, those stats can sometimes get a bit inflated, and you have to be careful when evaluating your own performance. Because if you're Junkrat spamming into the death ball and getting a lot of free chip, but they're using double healers and they're healing all that damage away and you're not actually getting kills down, something is wrong in your team comp. And it might not necessarily just be your fault. You might be doing fine, but it's important that you have teamwork and the correct composition in order to complement whatever plays you're trying to make. So in that way, if your Junkrat spam isn't hitting multiple targets, maybe your DPS will be better utilized on another character, one that can more easily pinpoint out specific targets that'll help your team gain man advantage. And more about value with basic attacks. Some characters are utterly worthless fighting other characters. And it's important to realize when you're engaging in a fight that has a huge waste of your time potential. What I mean is, if there's an extended team fight going on, and you're spending far too much time to take down a target in some extended battle, you're not providing as much value to that team fight as you could. Now, of course, if you're hunting down the Mercy and she's running away, Mercy's ult is so powerful in team fights right now in this current meta that whatever resources you have to spend in order to kill the Mercy is typically what the pros end up doing. But otherwise, if you're playing Genji and getting caught up playing tanks, if you're in a Pharah v Pharah battle for minutes at a time, why aren't you fighting the main attack and having your teammates have hit scan that can kill the Pharah? Ultimately, this comes down to proper focus fire, which is another term I may have to explain later. But in short, make sure you are fighting the targets you are good at fighting in order for the time you're spending in that team fight to have as much value as possible so you can get the most out of your character. One of the more obvious characters for this is Reaper, who can wraith form in and out of battles at will and wants to find himself onto the opposing team's tanks, dishing out massive damage. Whatever he has to do in order to do that, and avoid the ranged fire and getting focused down and the McCree stuns and all that, that's where he wants to be. That's his home. Another important thing about value is your abilities, of course. Reinhardt has an E, which does 100 damage and cleaves through the entire enemy team. It has a pretty long cooldown, and you have to drop your shield in order to do it. So whenever you make that decision, it has to be a big one. Either dealing tons of damage into the opposing team's death ball, hopefully hitting a squishy or two, because 100 damage is half of the life of a lot of them, or to finish off a fleeing opponent that's weak. On the reverse side, if you're a Genji on that opposing team, Genji's Reflect can reflect just about anything. But since it's on a rather long cooldown, the bigger the burst that you can reflect, the more value you'll get out of his reflect. So if you see the Reinhardt Fire Strike coming into your team's death ball, of course you can jump out of the way because you're Genji and nimble, but a lot of times it's more value to jump right into the Flame Strike and deflect it back into the opposing team's death ball, dealing massive damage and protecting your team, providing a huge swing in the value of those two abilities. A couple more examples for you. Mercy's ultimate comes up very quickly. However, you do want to make sure that you maximize the value you're getting out of it. Coordinate with your team to make sure that they die in a radius if they're going to extend a team fight, and save it for an opportune moment. The biggest value swing you can get out of Mercy's ultimate is to lose a team fight to the opposing team's ultimate stack, so that like Graviton Surge into Death Blossom or something. If they use 2 or 3 ultimates to win a fight, you hide away. I like to think this little meta game kind of like Harry Potter and the Golden Snitch, where Harry Potter's flying around in the outside of the game looking to make a huge play, whereas everyone else is kind of playing the back and forth regular game. Mercy, after their team is down and out, wasting the other team's ultimate, can fly in and with one ult essentially counter all of those ults that just got used to wipe your team. Now your team might have ults and be able to completely reverse that fight. Because of this ability, Mercy is one of the highest value, no, she is the highest value character in Overwatch, which is why she gets picked 95% of the time in competitive matches. The only time they don't pick her is if they're trying to bum rush the point and expect to not have to resurrect. They usually just play with one Lucio. Other ultimates that can get decent value, the Lucio Sound Barrier can do something similar. If you hear the audio cue for the opposing team's Soldier ult or Genji ult, or you get sucked into a Graviton Surge, a really well-timed drop the beat will protect your entire team from that incoming burst of damage. Oftentimes they're comboed, and the more combos that you can counter with your ult swings the fight into your favor, providing great value for your team. And those are a few examples for you guys. Remember, you want to make sure that you're not wasting time in the fight because time is valuable, so focus down your proper targets, and with your abilities, maximize their use so they provide the biggest effect for the team. Leave me a comment if you have any questions or concerns or any feedback, suggestions that you'd like to see us cover. Share our channel with your friends that play Overwatch. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. I've been Frito for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.